Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Saturday Night Mailbag Show. I am your host, Brandon. I don't know why I did it that way, but good night. How's everybody? I brought Ty back. We brought Ty back from the All Gas Trade Show. Ty, you are one of my favorite partners. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell any of the content creators. We won't say a word. They won't ever find out. But Ty, it's good to have. How would they ever know, right? How would they ever know? But Ty, it's good to have you on. How are you doing this evening, my friend?
I'm doing well. It's been a jam-packed Saturday. We had All Gas Trade Show this morning, and we have a WrestlePalooza tonight. We had a Baku F1, so it's a sports weekend for your Thai guys. So it's been a good one, man. I'm assuming there's some college football happening as well, and we got a nice little week 3 slate ahead of us. My wife said she wasn't too excited about the slate. Like, are you excited about the slate coming up here, Brandon?
I mean, you and I, we kind of, you're a Chiefs fan. My mom's a Chiefs fan. And our teams are going at it Saturday night. Both teams kind of need the win, right? Like the Giants need to put something on the board. Kansas City Chiefs, kind of a tough start. Doubly so, right? For the expectations that are there with that team and what's gone on over the last 7 years, so it's a must. That's a must-win game. That's probably one of the few games that I legitimately do have circled because I do think that the Giants are probably closer to what they were last week against the Cowboys than they were week 1 offensively against the Commanders.
Yeah.
But in saying all of that, Kansas City's defense is pretty stout. They are good against the run, which unfortunately the Giants are not really good at. So if you've got Tyrone Tracy and you got those Cam Scattaboo good luck.
Buckle up. Yeah.
Buckle up. Hope those are point per carry leagues. But if they're not, then you might want to consider a different answer. But good evening to everybody. Make sure you drop your questions. Ty and I are going to get to some of them. That's how we kind of get through everybody. If you want to have other questions or you want to continue the conversations, we have them over at patreon.com/allgas. Jump in the community. We have a lot of conversations throughout the week, but Ty, we're out of the pleasantries here. Let's just get to the questions because that's what people are here for.
Let's do it.
Let's get the opening bell question. Is it time to panic on the rookie running backs? Yet. We're gonna come right out of the gate. We're gonna get the controversial, uncomfortable question right here on the table. We've already all heard that Trey Sermon is scheduled to be activated, which means that our Caleb Johnson shares are probably going to be inactive.
Mm-hmm.
There's Ashton Genty has been good, not great. Amarian Hampton, good, not great. RJ Harvey, good, not great. I know it's only week 2, so maybe the word panic probably isn't necessarily like the word that probably should be. But on a scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you about some of these rookie running backs? Not necessarily just with their production, but just with the situations.
I mean, I thought this was supposed to be the 2017, 2018. Like, it's going to be a historical draft class of running backs. This was supposed to be the new wave that was going to save Dynasty. And so far, the old hope and expectations have come back to bite us. So, yeah, man, if I had to put a number on it, and I think it'd be more so what I would have expected to see from these running backs and the situations that they were landing in, I would say I'm at like a 6.5 out of 10. For Caleb Johnson, that's more up to a 8.5, somewhere in that range, but it's not great when, the guy that was supposed to come and save the running back class, Genty, he's getting volume, but he's not doing anything with it. Hampton, he doesn't look too efficient. Like there's going to be all these detractors. At least Harvey had a 50-yard run, at least there's that kind of saved it. But I was taking a look through some stats, man, and at least, Hendo, Harvey, Genty, Hampton, they're at least getting a lot of work in the passing game, which is kind of like okay, there's a floor, it's being set, and now where does it make sense to be patient, right? So, right, Brandon, draft capital, man, it feels like it matters less than what it did before, at least in the dynasty fantasy space. But I feel like running back is one of those ones where man, if you have that first round draft capital, I'll even put out to second round draft capital as a running back, I feel like the teams are going to give you those opportunities more often than not. But the thirds, the fourths, that's where it's man, I don't know how much of a leash you're going to get. We're seeing that live with Caleb Johnson. Is there anything else that goes into you for the factoring in running backs and how much leash you give them, or how do you feel about the rookie running back, Brandon?
I mean, outside of Caleb Johnson, I probably feel okay still, right? Like it is still too early. It still is too early, right? We were kind of, I know that it's really easy to kind of look at these guys and be like, oh, you know, they're not producing to the, you know, I drafted Ashton Jetty at the 101, Brandon, and he's not producing at that level yet. And it's ironic that you brought up the 2017 class, because that was supposed to be the class that was supposed to be kind of ushered out with this class. And it's ironic that that class is still kicking and still putting up a fight on the way out the door, right? We got the Alvin Kamara, the Saquon Barkley, the Derrick Henry. Like those guys are they just won't go away, right? They just will not go away as much as we try to put a whole bunch of these guys in. And the reason, and Scott had a really good conversation with me on Monday night about Caleb Johnson and just kind of the expectations of coming around like a 3rd round pick versus when Najee came in as a 1st round pick to Pittsburgh. I'm not here's what I'll say about Caleb Johnson. And I think this is a good thought to think about, and shout out to Jordan Richards, because he thought about this. Like, Caleb Johnson was a 1st round rookie pick all summer long, right? He was consistently kind of you were always making the decision between Quinshon Judkins and Caleb Johnson for the most part, right? Maybe you had Emeka Egbuka in that same kind of tier, right? You're not going to get that for Caleb Johnson if you try to sell him. And what's going to be really hard for somebody, like if we start talking, Ty, about like, oh, you need to get out on Caleb Johnson, or, you know, you start to have the conversation about what can I get out for Caleb Johnson? The manager that took Caleb Johnson at the 108, 109, maybe even 110, they don't want to give up on the 1st round running back after 2 to 3 weeks. Yes, the inactive hurts, but it's going to be even harder for them. You know what I mean? Like, like we were talking about this beforehand. We were saying with Caleb Johnson, we were looking at Dynasty Daddy, right? And we were looking at kind of some of the trades. And I'm just going to read off a few of these ones, and you just tell me lightning quick, right? Caleb Johnson in a 2026 first or Kyron Williams.
Oh, okay. Just give me Kyron, man. Just give me Kyron.
Right? David Montgomery or Caleb Johnson.
Give me Monty.
We'll go a little grimier here. Nick Chubb in a 3rd or Caleb Johnson.
Man, it's weird how he got here, right? And again, like this is like at a certain point, a running back is truly what he can do for my roster. Like I'm not getting into Caleb, expecting him to be a market mover, right? So if it comes down to what I can do with this running back today, give me Nick Chubb in the 3rd, and I'll turn that 3rd into something else later. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and so that's like the thing is like we talk about I can't sell him, but like this is what the streets are selling him for right now, and you know that we've been on. You know, a lot of folks have been around the fantasy community long enough. Like you got to give these running backs a chance, right? You got to give them a chance. You got to give them a chance. But what do you do when you exhausted a 109 and the guy potentially is inactive? What if he's inactive next week, Ty? What if he's, you know what I mean? Like, what if this is not just a 1 week? What if this is not just a 1 week thing, right? What happened? Then it's like, you know, like,
I would feel different if at least he looked good in preseason. You know what I mean? Like from the jump, as soon as people saw him in the field, it was like, oh, he's slow. Oh, he has cement shoe. Like the detractors were starting from the jump, and it's just been bad news after bad news after bad news after bad news. And I'm at a certain point, I'm going to start listening to like the direction and the bad news that's in front of me, you know?
Yeah. Like, and this is Chip Diamonds brings up a point, right? Like we shouldn't be pushing 3rd round guys into the 1st round of rookie drafts. We did it with Spiller. We did it with Kendre Miller. We did it with Keyshawn Vaughn. The list goes on, right? We've done this with a lot of 3rd round picks. And I think to answer all the way back to your question, like, how do you evaluate all these guys that are especially later? It's do they get opportunity? And when they get the opportunity on the field, do they capitalize on it? And I think that's really what we have to start to evaluate, as opposed to just, well, he's filling a role, right? Or he's going to step into this. Like we all thought that for all offseason that Caleb Johnson was probably going to be the guy that was going to fill in for Najee Harris, and it's just not there. Right? Like it's just not there. And that's okay. That's okay. It's okay. Listen, it's okay to miss, right? We all miss in fantasy football sometimes, right? Like nobody's going to bat 1,000, right? But you just got to kind of adapt to the information. And if you're looking to get out on Caleb Johnson, there's your get out prices. We just told you what they are. Probably straight up for like an RB 22 to 24, Or if you want to package him in with a first round pick, you could probably get up to the back end of the first round. You probably could get maybe a little bit more than Kyren. Maybe you can get Kyren in the third, depending on your league. But like
that's what I want to do.
That's what I kind of want to do, right? Like
yeah.
if I'm trying to figure out how to get the escape hatch, like I'm gonna use that Caleb piece, and I'm gonna probably try to target somebody who's maybe trying to retool, right? But they still got pieces on their team, and they're just like, they're 0-2. They're not. They thought they were a contender, but they're really not a contender. Here you go. Here's this playoff 26 first and Caleb Johnson, because you really want. You can take that risk. I don't want it. You can take it and give me that Kyren Williams. Give me that. Can I get Bucky Irving for Caleb in a first? I don't know if you can. That's going to be tough, right?
It's worth a shot though, and that's kind of how I want to. Like, I don't really want to take Caleb Johnson and just split him into Nick Chubb in a third if I can help it, right? But what I'd love to do is pair him with something that actually is nice and make it so that he's not the focus of the deal. The focus of the deal is the first. It's the other piece that he's attached to, and in that way, maybe I can at least get closer to what value I want to get out of Caleb in a deal and get into something I actually want. So. Yeah, man, we can go through a wide range of those running backs who you would be willing to actually pay a first for, and then adding Caleb Johnson to get it across the line, make it that leverage deal, right? That's something I'm interested in for sure.
I don't know if you could do this after Thursday night, but can you get James Cook for Caleb Johnson in the first?
Man, yeah, I have to put my hat in my hand about all these James Cook takes and my irrational hate for James Cook. That's the price, man. That is the price, right?
Like those are the kind of guys that you're trying to get into. Like I'm trying to target James Cook and Bucky, but if I gotta settle for Kyren or maybe slightly low, like right in that range, I'm perfectly fine with saying, yeah, that's okay. That's fine. But I don't want to be. It's an interesting one. I would much rather not go to the Nick Chubb eject price. That's not where I want to be.
Felt immediately just so gross, but it does. Okay. That tells you where we're at, and now what are we doing with that information, right?
Yeah. Well, that was the opening question. Was the rookie running backs? I'm sure we'll have more time. We could sit here all night long and break down all five of them, but I think the other four, it's really just be patient. Yeah. I think they're kind of in their own tier, because we've seen them produce. They're just not producing to the way that everybody wants them to produce. So that's more of the Aaron Rodgers relax. Just be patient on those guys. Let another week come in. Let it settle a little bit. Don't rush to push. But with the Caleb Johnson situation, because it's a little different than the other ones, and it's going to be harder because there is that he was a first round running back in rookie drafts. I don't want to trade him mentality for some folks. You got to get creative if you want to move on from him.
100%. At least the other four are actually on the field and not being taken off of special teams,
Yes. Ty, let's talk about Joe Burrow. You talked about him this morning on the All Gas Trade Show. If you haven't taken a look at that, once you're done here, go listen to Ty and Gabe. They did a pretty good breakdown of Joe Burrow and some trades that happened this week. But Ty, what are you doing with Joe?
Yeah, man. Joe, tough scene, right? So last year was his good year. So this year's his injury year. So next year will be his good year, right? So at least we know the pattern now. But it's tough, man. And it kind of depends on my team, right? If I have now a glaring quarterback need on a contending roster, that's that situation where I'm probably gonna have to bite the bullet and find a way to move into something else with Joe Burrow. But I know I have to tell myself I am not getting pre-injury Joe Burrow price. Right. So that means I have to be willing to either take a step down, take a bet, or pay up higher than probably what I want to do. We saw some deals, one from Diaz. He sent Joe Burrow in a first for Jalen Hurts. Right. I would love to try to pivot down to like a Bo Nix if I can. Right. But we saw Drake May for Burrow straight up. Are you doing that?
I guess it depends on the context of the team. I mean, I don't hate it because I don't know that Joe is in that tier 2 anymore, but I don't know that I would really want to willingly go drop down to Drake May, because it does start to change the roster construction of my quarterback room.
What I would want to do with my Joe Burrow is either I'm going to hold that Joe Burrow and treat him as like a 2 first ticket, right? Like, I know that this thing is going to come back around, and in 6 months, he's going to be a top 12 option at quarterback, like baseline, right? But right now is not the time to sell. And maybe over the next couple of weeks, where some of these teams that look like contenders start to aim for 26 because it didn't go their way in a couple of weeks, that there are going to be more buyers that will come to the market, and Joe Burrow should be something that someone always wants. But I'd rather go and pay for a Carson Wentz, a Mac Jones, I try to get in on a Daniel Jones at this point, right? And use Joe Burrow cross positionally for something different than trying to take half that value back in quarterback and then get a little something kicked in on the side, right? I would love to avoid the quarterback tear down if I can help it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the equivalent cross position? What's the wide receiver that you would probably be like, this is fine.
Well, let me pull up JB's tiers here. So I'll read across. So wide receiver, how about Tedor McMillan or Joe Burrow?
Probably still lean Burrow, but it's close.
I'm assuming you're taking JSN, Brian Thomas Jr.
Yes.
Okay. How about Nico Collins?
Yes.
How about Rome Odunze?
Ooh. If my roster's constructed, yes.
Okay.
If it's constructed
right.
If it's constructed right, because again, what I'm doing is I'm basically saying I'm changing how I'm going to put my quarterback room, and now I'm leaning my chips into the wide receiver room.
Yeah, absolutely. How about like a Devon Achane or Saquon Barkley?
Not Achane. Maybe Barkley, but probably not.
Probably don't want to
shoot higher. Probably going to shoot a little higher that way.
I probably don't want to turn my quarterback value into running back value unless it's like that is the crown jewel that takes me into the promised land,
Like, and Burrow's my QB2, right?
Yeah.
I would do it if I got a Lamar, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, and Scene as QB1. That's my QB2. And I've got maybe like Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, maybe like Aaron Jones type running back room. And that's where it's like, you know what? I probably could use one more chip. And I'll just make my QB2s the Jake Brownings, the Carson Wentzes, the Mac Joneses of the world, the Spencer Rattlers. And I'll just make it work week in, week out.
Yeah. And the problem is those teams that have Joe Burrow, a lot of them are built around Joe Burrow being Joe Burrow. So like you said, if Joe Burrow's my quarterback too, I feel a lot more better. But man, at a certain point, you got to look at, okay, now that Joe Burrow's out of the picture, like where does my team stand now? Like, would it be nice if it competed? Yes, but is it going to be a lot harder if I don't have that elite quarterback piece in this league? You just got to do that analysis on each team that you have. But the point is, I'm not scared to move away from my Burrow, but I'm also not in a hurry because I know that that's going to come back around. And in the offseason, it's going to be just Joe Burrow season again. So,
yeah. Let's get this question from the chat because I thought it was interesting tying into Joe Burrow. Traded Jake Browning for Tua. Is that a W? Is that a W or is that an L?
Boy. Well, let's Tua. It's not great, huh? He looked a little better on Thursday. We got some points in the bag. So the problem, like, I guess this is it. Like it's a 1 year bet, right? And you're playing at that level of quarterback where it's going to be what can you do week to week. Personally, I'm going to stand with Tua. I'll just stand with Tua. I feel like our girl Sam for Bama would never talk to us again if I didn't.
She would not.
I mean, again, Jake Browning, he's the starting quarterback right now, and my fear is that we buy into Jake Browning thinking he's going to be our stopgap for the rest of the year, and then he either gets hurt or gets replaced in a couple of weeks. About that Brett Brittman, right? Like what happens if things happen, right? That's where I don't want to get too over my skis here. I'll just stay with Tua because he's either going to crash and burn here, but I bet he'll get another opportunity somewhere as long as his brain works.
Yeah, for some reason, as much as I do like Jake Browning for the short term, like I think ultimately at the end of the deal, I think Tua is probably it. Again, Mike White just got signed to the practice squad. Sean Clifford got signed to the practice squad. So I don't think either one of those guys is up as an immediate threat to Jake Browning. I think the biggest threat to Jake Browning is probably Jake Browning himself.
Yeah, I just agree with Keegan. That's just down bad.
It's just down bad, man. You're just down bad. But hey, this is what happens. This is why we talk about roster construction. This is why we talk about being able to withstand injuries all off season long. So that way you don't get too thin. And it's when Joe Burrow does go down, you're not like, oh, well, what are we going to do? How am I going to pivot? All right, well, I've got some options. Cody just says I could just go buy Tua for thirds. Can I just buy Tua for thirds then? I mean, sure. How many are you going to put in there? Is it going to be like an NBA package where I get like five thirds and 3 of them are in the future? Like, sure. One can always take a quarterback of that nature when you just throw enough thirds at it. Like, sure. Why not? All right. Fizzle gives us his family what's popping, but what's going on, Fizzle? Shout out to Fizzle and what he does over there at South Harmon. But this may take up the whole show. I hope it doesn't. But please tell the people why they should be buying more Kyle Pitts, or should they just sell all of their shares to be? Ty, let's talk about it, because we have all kind of, there's a few guys where we could clearly say early on in the season we missed, like swinging a whiff, right? Daniel Jones, James Cook. The two of us have easily had big swings and misses, like full on, just terrible.
Yeah.
But what do we do with Kyle Pitts?
Just when I think I'm out, just pulls me back in,
Yeah.
And shout out to Fizzle. Shout out. We're gonna a little cook up over here. Make sure you keep up with everything Fizzle's doing. One of my Goombas in the space. One of the from what I hear, one of the realest people in the fantasy space. So we appreciate you, Fizzle. Yeah, man. I mean, Pitts, like, it's been, like plus 12 catch rate over expected, plus 3.2 reception EPA. Like, he had that mythical rookie season, and then things happened, right? No, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't the rookie season with Matt Ryan? Is that?
Let me go fact check that.
Okay. Because I know after that, it was Ritter. There was stuff happening. Like, the Atlanta just hasn't been Atlanta for some time. And, so Penix has been better than I expected. I came in with biased eyelids or biased glasses on Penix, thinking that it's probably going to be worse than what it's going to be. But I've been pleasantly surprised by what Penix has done. Man, I've been surprised by Pitts, man. He's been being used. He's not dropping it. He's doing his thing. So Fizzle, man, like, I'm cautiously optimistic on Pitts and on these tight end bully ball rosters that I have. I think Pitts fits in pretty well on some of those. And I mean, I'm looking at some of these prices on Dynasty Daddy, Brandon, and still pretty affordable, man.
Yeah. I'm looking at his Trinity score right now over on ddfantasyfootball.com. I mean, he's got 667. His hit so far on the season, he's 10.3 fantasy points per game, just slightly underneath the trend line. So for those of you who have seen the Trinity tracker, you know that below the trend line, but kind of down to the right, are guys that you normally tend to look at for purchase, right? When we're looking at guys that we want to try to purchase. I mean, he's clearly involved and used in the offense, which we were a little concerned about going into the season with Bijan and Drake London and Darnell Mooney, right? But it seems like Kyle Pitts is one of Penix's go-to guys. And I've noticed this too, Ty. He's got a bit of those targets on third down, which, when we talk about guys who move the ball and are chain movers, like, Pitts is turning maybe into that guy for Penix. I'm not saying that, like, I don't think he's in the clear tier of McBride and Bowers. I think we can squash and say he's not that. But can he cement himself in that tier of guys that is tight end, 6 to 36, but he's kind of closer to the 6 than he is the 36.
Right.
Like, he's probably close. Like, there's going to be weeks where, like, there's
closer to Kittle and Kraft versus, your Kincaids. Like, can you climb that ladder a little more?
Yeah. Like, he's probably close. I mean, he's closer to Dalton Kincaid than he is Cody Parkinson, right? Like, right. Or Tyler Conklin, where, the random 2 for 55 shows up. Like, I think he's stabilizing himself as a fantasy asset, right? And I think for me, I bought some Pitts in a league last year, and nobody wanted him in the offseason. And now I've got some folks that are saying they want him. So I'm interested in looking at him, but I'm going to pull up here some Kyle Pitts trades, because I think this is probably a good spot. Like, let's see what he's kind of going on the market. Shout out to Dynasty Daddy here. Like, I'm looking at Kyle Pitts deals.
It's pretty nice.
It's not a bad price. Like, it's pretty palatable. if you're trying to pick them up, like let's go through a couple of these here. Would you take that Kyle Pitts? Do you want the K dot in the 27 second, or do you want Kyle Pitts?
I'll take Kyle Pitts.
Pitts, Ott has been a hot name a couple years over the last couple years, but hasn't done much yet this year. Kyle Pitts in a 2026 fourth, or Wandale Robinson?
Gotta have that fourth, huh?
Gotta have that fourth.
Give me Pitts.
26 second and third, or Kyle Pitts?
Yeah, at the tight end premium, as long as there's like no tight end premium, like I'm probably playing a second and a third in most circumstances, right? And this is where like league context will matter, right? Because in a non-tight end premium league, there's no one aside from like your Bowers and your McBrides and maybe like that one guy that separates who are going to actually matter. So at a certain point, you don't have to buy into Pitts, but in these formats where tight ends matter, why wouldn't you pay that for a shot on a guy like Pitts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Pitts, and he's comparable right now in Trinity score to Harold Fannin, who, right there in that same just low end wide receiver one. He's got a higher Trinity score than Tucker Kraft.
And people love them some Kraft right now.
He is currently 6th right now in Trinity score for tight ends. So, I mean, Blue Star Lock, he's eternally 23. I mean,
he's only 24, man. Like he's still young. Like shouts out to Lee as well, our boy who created the Savage FF. I'm looking at Kyle Pitts. He has an 85 Savage score, man. Like people are excited with Pitts, and that's even with it going down 1%. Right? So like people are still in on Pitts. Like I've been bombarded with Pitts 101 memes throughout like the build up to the fantasy season on social media. Like, yeah, it's a bit of a meme, Fizz, but it's working right now, man. So yeah, give me some Pitts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm for buying Pitts in the right circumstances. I mean, if someone's trying to trade gouge me, no way. But in a guy like Pitts, where it may only cost me a 26 second and a third, depending on the premium, yeah, I would be cool with that. Yeah. Oh gosh,
Cody, stop it.
Cody will forever try to just. There's always got to be a Cody. There's always got to be a Cody. We love him though. But let's hide that. Let's get to this comment, because I kind of actually shout out to Scott Ray for their Trinity show.
Yeah.
If you're not tapped into that show, it drops midweek every single week in season. Ray and Scott do a wonderful job of breaking down the Trinity tracker and what it is and how we can make better decisions. Right, that's ultimately what it comes down to. But it showcased offenses like the Jags and the Houston offenses, which are not necessarily what we would consider high octane NFL offenses right now, but they do have guys that are studs. So what do we do with guys like Nico and BTJ? What are you doing? What are you doing right now with guys that are quote unquote elite wide receivers, but their Trinity score and maybe their production are kind of lagging?
Yeah. And I think this is where you have to be patient in the right spots in Dynasty, and you have to adjust in the right spots in Dynasty, right? And then there's a mixture of both and all those things. So when you're talking guys like Nico, Brian Thomas Jr., I've seen it happen before. Yes, we should have known that based on last year, based on what we've seen throughout the preseason and into the start of the year here, Houston's offense is not going to be this awesome vehicle of fantasy points. But we saw what happened on that first drive with Nico, and then it kind of went cattywampus from there. My bet is that Nico Collins will continue to be Nico Collins, and that offense will support at least an elite outcome wide receiver some of these weeks, right? Am I expecting Nico Collins to go off for 25 points every week? No, and that sucks, right? But I expect Nico Collins to still be Nico Collins. And even in these difficult offensive situations, you still can produce at least elite fantasy options. So Nico, Brian Thomas Jr., man, really, remember that talk in the offseason of, oh man, is he even the one? Because that Travis Hunter is coming. What's Travis Hunter? Has he even broken a 4 Trinity score in the year so far? Like,
I will go take a look.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful part of it.
It's pretty quick. Bang.
Survey says his Trinity score is 4.51.
Okay. So he broke a 4. Good for him. But until Hunter's being used on offense full time, and like that, I don't feel any really different on Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah, we wanted these guys to score, and every elite wide receiver underproduced in week 1. Some of them came back in week 2, and some of them lost their quarterbacks, right? So I think everyone is kind of feeling uneasy on a lot of things in Dynasty, and that's where I think it's just a good reminder that there's only so many true value moving assets in Dynasty. And then there's a lot of guys who are replaceable, who are week to week bets, who are, what are you doing for me right now? And so some players are credit and some players are value. How can I move my way into these assets that are value and use that value correctly? And then how can I use the rest of this credit to make it work for me? Right. So guys like Nico, BTJ, they are still a true value asset. So I'm not moving on that. But some of these other guys, man, some of these other like gnats in the offense, Brandon, yeah, those are the guys that I'm worried about.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I mean, am I concerned? Yes. It's something to monitor, right? It's kind of like you just, when you're doing your own stock. I mean, because that's what Trinity kind of is. You're monitoring the stock, and you're kind of watching the stop loss, and you're monitoring, when do I want to buy in more? When it takes a dip, do I want to buy more, or do I want to just stay put? And I think in a situation with guys like BTJ and Nico, like, it's probably best right now to just stay put and trust that the opportunity is there right now for them. The fantasy production will eventually catch up, right? Like the law of variance is always like, I talk about this a lot too. Sometimes when we're talking through like gambling, right? Or like sports bets, when you're talking through that process, like there's a variance process to it all, where sometimes you can have the right process and you can have the right lines and the right everything, and then something just goes wrong, and there goes that opportunity, right? And I think the same is true in fantasy football, right? There's just going to be a level of variance that's going to happen within the game. You just kind of got to live with it. And by receiver, it could be extremely variable from week to week. You can get into a game where you're in a negative pass script the entire game, you're behind the entire game, and you're throwing. Look at the Giants, for example, with Malik Nabers. Week 1, they were in the game for the most part with Washington the entire time. There was no reason for them to just put Russ out there and go YOLO ball. There really wasn't a reason for that to happen. And in turn, what happened? Malik Nabers didn't necessarily produce the exact same way we wanted him to produce. His Trinity score was there, but the production lagged. And then you looked at last week against Dallas, where it literally was just an offensive blitz. Defense was completely optional in the second half. And Malik Nabers goes for exactly what we all thought Malik Nabers was going to go for. And everybody who has a Malik Nabers share this week feels absolutely good about him, because they had to go into YOLO Russ mode, and they let him cook. And who was the beneficiary of letting cook was Malik Nabers. Now, Wandale cooked too, but those elite production, like, I'm not 100%. I'm not worried about guys like BTJ and Nico Collins, not just yet. If you want to sell them, be strategic when you do sell them. That's the biggest thing, is if when you do it, don't do it on a down week.
And that's the thing.
Like, I'm not going to buy,
man.
like, I don't want to buy high, sell low. Right. I want to buy low, sell high.
Just take my shirt, please.
Yeah. If you buy my shirt, I'll take the hat off of Ty's head too while I'm at it. Like, no, we're not doing. You just got to be a little bit patient with it. That's the beauty of the Trinity show, and that's the beauty of that show with Ray and Scott. And really, the tool is really to kind of identify, is there something else at play, or is it just variance got me this week? And I would totally tap into that show and get involved in that one, because there is a lot that goes on. There. Let's take a look. Let's shout out to. All right, here we go. Here's one. I traded Sam Darnold for a second and just decided to roll with Browning this week. We real talk. Like,
yeah.
Going back to those quarterbacks, right? Going back to that whole idea.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
I keep coming back to the fact that I just want to put as little value into quarterback 2 on my roster as I can.
Yeah.
Just let me play in the mucky waters. If I can flip anything for value, I will do that, and just keep playing waivers, keep rostering backups, and these starts will find their way into my lineup.
Yep. Hudson asks, what's the lowest receiver you'll take with the random 26 first to get to sell Nabers?
Ooh.
How far down? Speaking of Malik Nabers, how far down the wide receiver rabbit hole
Oh
will you take Mike Evans in a first?
no.
Okay, so I'm trying to find some level ground here.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I'm going to name guys who I don't expect these deals to get done, but Tet in a first, Brian Thomas Jr. in a first, JSN in a first, Nico in a first, Odunze in a first, Ladd in a first, Buka in a first, London in a first, Rashid Rice in a first. I would do all the. I would take the package side of that. Garrett Wilson, Marv. That's not really how I want to use those assets.
Okay.
Zay Flowers in a first. Would you sell your Malik Nabers for Zay Flowers in a first?
Probably not. But I do like. I think Zay is probably undervalued within the fantasy community. But I don't know that somebody would pull that trigger. If I gave them Zay Flowers in a first for their Malik Nabers, I think I'd probably be laughed at.
Yeah.
I think you just need a little. I think you're going to need more.
Right. AJ Brown in a first. You want to get in on that swole Batman that everyone's very, very, very scared on right now in that Philadelphia offense?
I think that could have probably been had 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think at this point it's probably more than that.
T. Higgins in a first.
No. I think the same thing. Would have been a different story 2 weeks ago with Joe Burrow. It's different. Would you do Rome in a first?
If I'm convicted on Rome, if I expect what we've seen so far to continue, it's got to be that level of wide receiver. If we're doing a wide receiver in a first, it's got to be at least there. Tough to let go of that Malik Nabers, though, isn't it?
It is. I'm trying to find a profile that is relatively similar in terms of opportunity and player plus the first, right? Because I want that insurance piece to be something like, don't be doing it for like Brandon Ayuk in a first. Don't be. You're not going to do it for Jordan Addison in the first, right?
No, God no.
You're not doing it. Are you doing it for X Worthy in a first?
No.
Probably not, right? Like,
no.
Especially if you said you would do it for Rashi, you're probably not doing it for X.
That's the thing. If you caught me a month ago, I might be a little more spicy on that, but not with what I know today.
Yeah, I think Rome's kind of the one. Oh, there. Jeez, Lord.
Keenan, stop. Please.
Gotta buy. Keegan's buying the hype. He's buying all of it, man.
That's how you use your Malik Nabers, getting to QJ in the first.
But
yes.
let's go. But let's flip it. Let's flip it. Maybe he's got the right idea. Wrong wide receiver in that offense. Would you do Ladd in a first?
Ladd in the first. Just give me Ladd in the first, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because similar type thing with Rome, right? You don't necessarily have the draft capital, but at this point, draft capital is kind of out the window when you get to the production level that Ladd got to, right? But same type of thing, same type of play, not exactly same type of player, but just same type of production with the first.
Yeah, and you're also bet on a good offensive system right now. Like you're not attaching yourself to a headache. Like you're at least get into a good offense at the same time. So I'm good with that bet.
All right, here we go. Start sit question. Here we go. Garrett Wilson, Chuba, or Jordan Mason.
Ooh,
gotta pick one.
So who's it? So it's what's the Jets versus Tampa Bay.
Okay.
Chuba. Where is he? Where's the
Jordan Mason gets the Bengals. So that's the
and people
that is the prime.
Yeah, and Carolina plays Atlanta. Hey man, people are really penciling in some points for Jordan Mason right now and telling me they get the Bengals at home for Minnesota. Yeah, okay. I'll roll Mason. If you don't feel convicted on Mason, I'll go Chuba, but I'll give me Mason, man.
I like that. It's got the touchdown upside, right? I think I might take Chuba there.
Yeah.
I think that, and hear me out on this one. It doesn't matter if Carolina's down 27-6; they're going to still bring Chuba Hubbard out there, and he's still getting looks.
That saved his fantasy day yesterday last week.
Right? Yeah, it did. Like that's the one thing with Chuba is like he's not destined to. Yes, it could get ugly early, but still kind of like that. I don't mind that Chuba. I really don't love Garrett Wilson against that Tampa Bay defense. They're sneaky. They're sneaky good.
That
Yes.
Tyrod inspire confidence for you, Brandon?
It does, actually, because it's better than whatever Justin Fields gave us last week. You know, could you imagine Justin Fields against this Tampa Bay defense? I mean,
boy.
you would. Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. It's Rico Dowdell versus Xavier Scott as the tiebreaker. It's actually Cam Akers signed to the practice squad, so I wouldn't be surprised if Cam pops up. So I get the point. The point is noted. It's Mason is probably.
I picked up some Xavier Scotts and just some 1 week best ball buys. So
there you go. Judkins or Pollard? Judkins looked okay.
Yeah.
Judkins looked good at the end of the game last week. He didn't look. He looked okay early on, but he got better as the game went on.
Do you think that's going to look good against Green Bay though?
Okay. All right.
Yeah. That's where, hey, I'll take the long-term bet on Judkins. I'll start Pollard this week. And hey, Indianapolis looked good on defense as well. So, could be a interesting choice either way.
Yeah. I was almost bought in. This is why we don't do things in a vacuum. It's because if you did, you would look completely awful. By the way, I fact-checked the Kyle Pitts statement. Matt Ryan was the quarterback. He's rookie.
Okay. Perfect. Nice.
Felipe Franks was the backup. All right, let's go with Sean L. He's a member of the YouTube here. If you want to be a member, sign up, click the join button, Trades and Chill, $3.99. You get access to the Dynasty Deal Show and also the Trinity show early. So make sure if you want to do that. But Sean asks, what is our approach to using FAAB throughout the year? Blowing it early on the first big free agency, or does it differ between contenders versus rebuilders?
I think it differs more so on format than where my team is positioned. Redraft lineup league, I will blow it on the first big thing that comes and then just try to take the early bet that's going to be the thing that happens. Lineup dynasty, I'll be like, I'll try to sprinkle it around. I don't put too much weight on it. I try to, not try to blow it all in one go. Usually I like to have some stuff. But in best ball, that's where I am a lot more meticulous and a lot more hoardy with my not the other one. Hoardy with my FAAB. I will never forget. We were playing in Royal Rumble and old Brock Purdy was going to get the start. I needed a quarterback and I was outbid by $3 by Chaboy J. Rich. Since that day, I have been a lot more mindful and a lot more. I need to have a FAAB advantage, and I will not blow my FAAB early in a best ball league. You'll probably see me in these leagues. I'm sprinkling FAAB right now. I am not putting solid bets on. If you want to make these market moving things with FAAB and bet you can get money back later, go ahead. I'm going to reserve my bag until later.
Yeah, I think it does differ, Sean, between contenders and rebuilders, because if there is an asset, like a Jake Browning that's available, or on a week like this week, right, where there's Tyrod Taylor, Marcus Mariota, Carson Wentz, Jake Browning, Mac Jones, possibly, depending on if Purdy decides he wants to play. We got at minimum five backup quarterbacks. Probably one or two of those was on your waiver wire. Yeah, if I'm a rebuilder, I want to blow some FAAB, like some much more of it, because I can the return I'm going to get is probably better than whatever I would have spent the $60 on to continue to just like if I could get a third for any one of those guys, I just paid $60 for a third.
I've seen Diaz do that this week alone. I've seen that happen already. Yes, use the money in those situations that you can go and get something else done. Right. But just be mindful of how much is that money worth right now and what's going to be worth to have some later on. There's always a balancing act.
Right. What is the return on investment? Right. Like if you're a contender and you're just trying to cycle through quarterback twos, like I'm using that as an example, right? Let's go back to that same example. There's 5 of them. Let's say 2 of them are available. I don't even care if it's best ball or lineup, and you're just cycling through them. If I'm contending, I don't want to burn nearly as much because I don't really care which one I get. I just want one. And if I can't get one, then I can just utilize another asset or figure out another strategy. I don't need to be going all in on a Carson Wentz if he's only going to play 3 games, because what could that $100 do in week 7, week 8, week 9, as Ty talked about? Like, I think it really does vary based on what we have available. Just because, you do want to have the availability to have flexibility, especially in later weeks, especially once the trade deadline's hit. If you have a trade deadline in your league, you want to have the flexibility to be able to either utilize that FAAB to trade. Well, you can't trade because you have trade deadline, but you want to have the ability to have that flexibility in that asset because you cannot move trade assets at that point. Yeah. So, here we go. Judkins or Marv?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm gonna take Marv. I'm a sucker for pain. I'll stick with I guess Mazda Marv. I'll stick with Mazda Marv. Even though like I think Judkins will maybe from this point forward score more points every week than Marv at this point, right? I just think from a dynasty asset perspective, again, there's only so many players that I actually want to spend a first for. And half the players that you play with on Judkins probably don't want a part of him because they think he's a knucklehead. At least with Marv, there's still that name cachet. If and when Marv does do something, there's going to be excitement. So I'm gonna take the bet on Marv. But if you're asking who's going to score more points, it's probably Judkins.
Yeah, I still think I want to go Marv there, even though it is against the 49ers. 49ers, Green Bay. Neither one feels good.
No, at all.
Neither one feels good. I'm probably going to leave Marv unless it's a point per carry. Honestly, if it's a point per carry, I think the question is probably a lot closer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm probably going to lead Marv there. Jacoby Myers, Calvin Ridley, Cortland Sutton, or Tet at my wide receiver 2. In my flex, I could do Mason, Chuba, or any of those options for my wide receiver 2, full PPR.
Okay. I'll tell you what, Atlanta's defenses looked kind of
They've
nice.
been stout.
Kind of nice. Sutton playing.
Sutton gets the Chargers.
Chargers. Doesn't feel too great, no?
I mean, I think if I could put Tet in my wide receiver 2, I would feel good about that. I can lock him in because he's I don't want to say he's matchup proof, but he's shown early so far that he can command enough opportunity, even in bad situations, that I'm okay with Tet, even if he doesn't find the end zone, but he still finds a way to get like 4 for 70. I still feel okay about that. Like that is fine in a full PPR. That's 11 points. I feel fine about that. I don't feel great, but I feel like, okay, well, I didn't take a 0. I didn't take a back there.
I'm gonna go with the game. I was kind of between things. I'm just gonna go with the game that has a higher total here. I'll go Ted as well. But yeah, I'm interested on that Myers against Washington.
But especially if he gets Lattimore, because we know that Lattimore is gettable. Even though he is the DB1 for Washington, he has been gettable at times. And I think that the Raiders offense may struggle to run the football against the Washington Commanders, but they will probably be able to get them through the air, which is kind of how teams got them last year a bit. So I still think that that's going to probably be an option. And again, with the only thing I would worry about with that game is if it gets out of hand quick. But Marcus Mariota's tended to be he's actually been pretty good for fantasy. So yeah, I'd be intrigued by Myers. That would be an interesting one.
And are you starting either Mason or Chuba over any of those wide receivers in his other flex spot?
I mean, the only one that I probably would say Mason is probably not over is Tet.
Yeah. So if you fire up Tet in that wide receiver 2, sure. The other ones, it's just kind of, just give me the running back.
We talked about this one earlier, but how do we feel about Scatterboo versus the Chiefs? Not good, Bob. Not good running the football. Like, I don't think. I mean, Kansas City, they do not allow a ton on the ground. It's just Saquon even struggled. It took him like 47 carries. No, I'm being a little bit dramatic there, but it took him a lot of touches to get up to that 94 yards. It took Javonte a lot of carries to get to where he got. I just don't know that Scatterboo is going to see enough carries to get meaningful yards. Now he did take over. It did look like he took over the backfield a bit. I mean, he was running with a bit more conviction. So I think he's going to see a little bit more opportunity. And I think this is their first home game. So fans are going to be there's going to be a short leash. You're going to hear a lot of boos early. I fully expect it. If this thing goes sideways real fast, you're going to hear a lot of, I don't think you're going to hear booing. I don't think you're going to also hear booing because they're going to try to chant for Scatterboo. Like, I think there will be some boos, but it might be also a chant for him. But I I think that if the offense gets flat, they're going to want the boost, and I think the boost is going to come from Cam.
I was going to ask you, was it a Tracy injury that opened the door? Like I didn't actually see what happened there. Like, do you have any other intel on like what led to Scadaboo getting the opportunity? Or was just, hey, he was given an opportunity, he did well with it?
I think he did well. He did well in week 1 with limited snaps. We got to remember too, he's coming off the hamstring injury, so he did not have a full training camp. You know, he came in kind of late to that game, to that process. But I think you can hear everything that you hear from Dayball. You know, he's definitely a different ball of energy that they probably haven't had in some time. And I think that energy is going to carry and be infectious not only to the team, but to fans. And I think there's going to be some level of pressure to be that underdog story within New York. New York loves themselves a good underdog story, period. I mean, shoot, we threw a guy that was living in his mom's apartment, you know, out there at quarterback. So, I mean, why not have, you know, Cam Scadaboo be the underdog, you know, the undersized guy that, you know, possibly turns the team around. And I'm not saying that Cam Scadaboo can't do something this weekend, but I'd be very shocked if on Monday night when we come into the recap show that Cam Scadaboo is a top 12 running back. I would probably peg him closer to RB 36 than RB 6. I think that's probably more of a realistic thing.
No matter how you feel on it, I don't feel great about the 29th overall rushing offense going against the 18th defense. I just don't. Just doesn't feel great.
All right, here's another one. Do we think Kendre Miller will be dynasty relevant post Kamara?
Man.
Well, again, do we even know when Kamara is going to be at the post level? Because we've been trying to put Derrick Henry in the ground for about 5 years now.
2032, Brandon. 2032. Like what does dynasty relevant mean? Does that mean he's a startable running back some weeks? Does that mean that you're able to actually trade him for something? Because if it's the latter, I don't think Kendre Miller will ever be an asset that you are getting into because of his trade value. Kendre Miller will always be, what are you doing for me right now? He may get opportunity when Kamara's gone, yes, but I don't think he'll be a market mover at any point.
I agree with you there. I think he's just going to be. I think Kendre Miller's got a better chance of being what Javonte Williams is for. Javonte Williams is for. I'm hybriding them together. What Javonte Williams would be in Dallas, right? I think like that's your best. Like that is your best high level outcome for Kendre Miller, is that he gets to a point where he's Javonte Williams, and in a given season, he can be utilized to maybe go into a quote unquote safer dynasty asset. Or you just ride his production out because you got him for nothing and you're cool with it. All right, Simon Joseph. I just moved Rice and Pearsall for BTJ and a 12x10. How do we like it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I assume you need the points right now and you want to bet on that BTJ. I'm probably not the best person to ask this, Simon, because one, I am a Chiefs fan and I'm a big believer in Rashee Rice. And I do think that once he is back on the field, I feel like he has a top 6 wide receiver outcome every week. If he has that kind of ceiling, and that's what I am betting on as long as he's healthy. So I mean, not Rice and Pearsall for BTJ. That's probably the price, but I'll go with Rice and Pearsall.
Yeah,
but now let me give a quick caveat. That is if Pearsall and Rice are both going to be in my lineup, right? Obviously, Rice not right now because he's not playing. But as long as that doesn't like make my lineup decisions on Sunday harder, you know what I mean? But I'll take Rice and Pearsall.
Yeah, I'm not doing it if I'm just getting Pearsall for depth.
Yeah,
you know, I wanna be able to ensure that I'm getting both in my lineup. And even though it's a start 10, it's kind of shallow, but I mean, it's a bet on Rice, right? It's a bet on Rice that when he comes back, he's gonna be heavily involved within the offense, which, given where they're at right now, where Juju Smith-Schuster and Tyquan Thornton are being utilized quite heavily, yeah, I would expect that Rashee Rice is probably going to be utilized quite a bit.
I'm thinking of those like orphan teams you take over, those pure rebuilders, getting the 2-for-1 there. I'm still getting a Rice level asset back. That's pretty nice. And Pearsall, you can do stuff with Pearsall. So I like that.
And worst case scenario, I mean, I know that the comments afterwards may be like, you're crazy for taking that 2-for-1. Like, you still have options with Rice and Pearsall. Like that's the thing. Like that's the beauty of it all. Is like you could still probably move Rice and Pearsall for solo assets if you need to. So it's not exactly the worst deal in the world.
It's a fine deal.
Yeah. Ty, what are you looking forward to most for tomorrow night? For tomorrow. Let's not do tomorrow night. What are you looking forward to the most for tomorrow?
Well, I mean, it's gonna like I like Minnesota, but it's gonna be nice not seeing Minnesota in a primetime spot for a week. You know, get them out of the spotlight. Let them cook with Wentz. Man, I mean, I am kind of interested to see what happens with the Chiefs and the Giants because both teams need to win something fierce. And like I said, it's the Giants' home opener, right? So that's gonna be pretty raucous in there. I'm just looking forward to hopefully some of the things that we were expecting in the offseason start to really show themselves. You know, we see some consistency out of these like elite level assets that we've built our teams around. I think most of all, Brandon, I just want Harold Fannin to really just remove himself from the conversation of a mid-level tight end. Just put him in the top shelf. Just Harold Fannin, prove me wrong. You know what I mean?
You know, I'm really interested in this AFC West matchup at 405, Denver and LA. And the reason why I say this is because both teams have an opportunity to take a step towards potentially, I don't want to say cementing themselves, but like just putting themselves in the key driver's seat to force the pressure of Kansas City having to win on Sunday night. Right? If LA goes out and beats Denver, they now are 2-0 they're now 2-0 in their division, and they are 2.5 games ahead of Kansas City going into Sunday night. Right? If Denver comes out and figures themselves out because they got completely gashed up and down the field last week by Indiana Jones. That's the new nickname apparently for Daniel Jones. It's no longer Daniel Jones or Daniel Dimes. It's now Indiana Jones, which I can vibe with.
Okay.
I can vibe with, for now.
Well, but Chris Jones will be the rolling rock that's chasing down Indy.
That's right. That's right. But if Bo Nix and Denver is able to get themselves back on track, they're 2-1. They're right at the top, and they have just as good a shot of getting back. Just as good a shot of getting into the AFC West. I think that's a very interesting. It's a very interesting matchup that can have some sneaky dynasty value tomorrow. Can have a lot of fantasy value, because both teams probably want to establish it, but probably are going to have to air it out at some point. And Bo Nix and Justin Herbert probably throw two very beautiful deep balls.
Yeah.
I know, pause, but there's
couple,
two. There's just a couple.
Just a couple.
Just a couple. But that is one game that I'm watching, and I'm also watching the Niners and Cardinals.
Yeah.
Will the real Kyler Murray stand up?
He is standing. He's just short.
He is standing. He might still be standing. But are they for real? Right? I've heard all offseason that Arizona was kind of legit. And, they've kind of played some teams that they probably should have beat, right? They definitely should have beat New Orleans. They definitely should have beat Carolina, although they made it very sweaty last week.
They did everything they could to lose.
They did everything they could to lose, right? San Francisco got through week one, got through, a dogfight with Seattle, and then kind of managed last week against New Orleans. Not sure if Brock's back this week, but this is a big game. This is a big game early on, and these are two big early divisional games that have a lot of consequence, not only to their division, but also to the conference, right? Whoever wins those two matchups is 3-0 and takes the driver's seat both in the division, but also in the conference. And so it's very interesting for me to see. I want to see if Brock Purdy's back. What does that offense look like? Does it change with Brock, or I think they should go to back. I think they should just keep back in there for one more game. It's not worth it week 3.
Just let Shanahan have the guy he wanted all along. Just let Mac Jones have a week,
Well, but I think it's early in the season, right? You don't need to go burn Mac, or you don't need to go burn Brock.
No.
Week 3, risk the re-injury, then he's out for the year, and then you got to trust Mac, and then you're going to have a quarterback controversy that you don't want. Let the man get healthy, give him a couple weeks. Mac can clearly cook, and then come back to him week 4, week 5. But
yeah, if they weren't 2-0, I think you might see me a little more urgency. But starting 2-0, I think they'll be all right.
Lag big game tomorrow. I like it. Could be. It's not probably QJ gets PS2, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would think. So yeah, it could be a lad big game. You know what? Aloha Panda, as much as we say it'll be a big game, it's probably going to be Keenan Allen. It's like death taxes and Herbert to Keenan Allen for a touchdown, right?
Maybe that Conklin's going to have a big game. Maybe we have that Hampton game that we've been waiting for.
Final question before we get out of here. Jordan Love or Bo Nix?
Oh boy. You know what? I'm just going to go with what the NFL is telling me is happening. And that is Jordan Love is cooking. Just give me Jordan Love, man.
Yeah, man. I'm there. I said within the Discord, Jordan Love for MVP. I know it sounds crazy a little bit. Maybe it's not that outlandish of a take, but I think there's going to be voter fatigue between trying to give Lamar his third MVP and giving Josh Allen back-to-back MVPs.
Right.
And yes, it is absolutely Jordan, someone's down there love. That is absolutely 100% exactly what's going to happen tomorrow. Jordan is going to look back and just find somebody. We don't know who it is. It could be Matthew Golden. It could be Dontavian Wicks. It could be Romeo Dobbs. Trust the Trinity, make a decision. And hey, somebody's down there.
Can we give Matthew Golden the Emeka Ibuka week 1 stat line?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people that probably would want that as well. But that does it for a Saturday night mailbag show. Ty, where can people find you this week? What are you up to this week?
You can find me everything I'm doing over on X at TyDeclare44. You can really find me in the Discord anytime, TyDeclare44. All gas trade show dropped today. Yeah, we break down. It's Jover, people. It's Jover for Joe. So we break down Joe. We break down a bunch of trades from the community. That was really fun. You can find me here. And then, find me in the Dynasty Deal Show every Friday with Scott and Shane. Really, a really fun way to end the week, man. Just talking trades, just figuring things out, having a plan, having some fun.
Yeah, make sure you tap in. Make sure you go. If you want to continue the conversation, well, we have community chats, feels like almost every day. Patreon.com/allgas. We'll continue those conversations. Make sure you tap in and subscribe. Make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast feed. Jeff's injury podcast just came out right before we went live. So Jeff's injury podcast is out. And then you could tap in. We'll be back Monday night. It'll be Scott and I. We were here for the week 2 recap show, but we will be back. The boss said we could have a week 3. So we're going to have the week 3 recap show. So make sure you tap in. But until then, we are out. Have a good Saturday night and happy week 3 of the NFL season.